you just do it, it'll turn out okay, even when you might be a little frustrated. Because today you're talking about achievements, and not just any achievements, the retro kind. And here to talk about it is my guest. You've known him, you've seen him before. Hopefully you love him. Snick 1990.
Hi.
Oh, so. So, hopefully to cheer you up, what are you talking about today?
So I'm talking about. I don't know if I can focus. Oh, yeah.
You want to talk about what's gotten you down?
Telling me that it's getting me down is just making it worse. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah. So there is a website called Retro Achievements that's dedicated. So you know how Xbox, like Steam, PlayStation have like achievements you can get?
Yeah.
Basically, this site is dedicated to giving achievements to like older games via emulation.
Okay. How long have you been a part of this?
About 4 years now.
You have a link you can share in the chat?
What?
Can you share a link in the chat to it?
To the website, sure.
Yep. For those watching, might want to see a part of it.
All right, so I guess to get into my story about how I found the site, basically it was at the height of COVID. This was in 2020, and because I was stuck at home with nothing better to do, a lot of what I was doing was playing around with a modded PlayStation Classic. I was putting like emulated PS1 games on there, and then also like GBA, Super Nintendo. And I always, even as far back as when I was playing my Super Nintendo Classic, I always looked at the RetroArch menu and I noticed the achievement option. I'm like, what the hell is that? And I eventually discovered the website. I found out how to make an account and link it. And yeah, that's a lot of what I was doing with my emulated games, especially since PS1 support had just happened at the time. And eventually I was getting increasingly frustrated or maybe disappointed that lots of games I wanted to play didn't have achievements made because, of course, it's all user generated. So I ended up asking, how can I look at games myself and possibly make my own achievements for games that I want to play that have them, but then they don't? And they told me I had to join the junior developer program.
Okay.
And basically, the way I'm going to try and describe how the achievement process works as simply as I can. So basically, you have to look at each game's memory and you basically duct tape together code that forms into achievements you want to make. Like, best way to get started is like you go in the game and like you try to look for basic things, like say for instance a character's health. So like you intentionally take damage and you just, there's like a search function and you have to like search for like decreases in value every time you take a hit, and that's how you find like the health memory. And generally most of the other important stuff will be close by after that. So that's when it stays simple. Lots of times, especially with like newer games, like say PS2, like some PS1, most recently GameCube, there are games that use something called pointers. And the best way to describe pointers is that the memory freaking moves every time you like switch a level or something like that. And they are annoying as hell to use because you have to basically put in complicated math equations to like track where they're going to go.
Okay.
And I despise using pointers because they always break. And I found out they can be even worse because on PS2 and GameCube, there's an advanced version of pointers called pointer chains. And I don't even want to imagine what those are like. But from what I've heard, basically, they are pointers to pointers. And pointers on their own suck. They suck. So I don't even want to imagine what finding a pointer to a pointer is like. And yeah. So the first achievement set I made was Power Rangers Time Force on the PS1. And that's a game that happened to heavily use pointers. So I had an amazing start. And I remember I was thinking, why do I have to use the pointers? Why not just find where each individual value is and just use that? And well, the reason why that doesn't work is because just because you see the values on specific levels, that doesn't mean they're going to be there. Sometimes when you load the freaking game up, it's going to be in a different spot. As I found out today, because if you're wondering why I'm so frustrated, it's because another game I developed achievements for, Pac-Man World Rally on the PSP, there is one single element of that game that uses pointers, and I thought I could avoid, and the thing is, the pointers do not fucking work. They don't work one little bit. I've tried, they don't do what they're supposed to do.
Damn.
And today, somebody was complaining that they couldn't unlock something, so I'm annoyed. Because I thought I had a solution that worked, and it doesn't.
So, how many consoles ago would a game have to be, or system have to be on the retro gaming achievement list?
Basically, number one, it has to have a mostly fully functioning emulator. So
Okay.
technically, one day we could have Switch because there's a fully functioning Switch emulator. But the other catch is basically they have to get the emulator working with the tools that let you look into the memory and like make the achievements and such. Like, there's a whole story involving GameCube support, but that's way later into this.
All right.
So, to get briefly into it, when I joined the site, like when I started earning and like around the time I started developing, PS1 was kind of brand new at the time. Since then, I've witnessed the launches of PSP, Dreamcast, PS2, and most recently GameCube. I think Saturn may have also been new at the time I joined. All I remember is that N64 came first. Well, no, like in the old days, like it was just NES, Super Nintendo, Genesis, stuff like that. But yeah, like PS1 and Saturn, I think were brand new when I joined. And then I got to take part in the launches for Dreamcast, PSP, PS2, and GameCube. So,
okay.
Currently, the next big system in the pipeline is Wii. But again, that's jumping ahead. So, getting back to my start, I did Power Rangers Time Force on PS1. again, it was very pointer heavy, and the achievements I made at the start were a mess. That's the best way I can describe it. But somehow I fixed them up based on the pointer tutorial, because there is a guy on the website. His name's Willhite Warrior. He is a pointer guru. Like, he knows what the hell he's doing. And in fact, I was chatting with him to figure out my problem before, so I'm gonna have to figure that out. So let's see. Matter of fact, I need to message him. Okay. So the next achievement set I made, probably the oldest game I've worked on, was Terminator on Sega CD.
Ooh.
And that was the game I should have started with, because no pointers in that game. Everything, all the memory, once you find it, it stays there. Level values, health, everything.
So, so are there two types of things: pointers and non-pointer games?
Kind of, yeah. There are plenty of games, mainly older ones, as well as ones that aren't that complicated, that have what's called static memory. Basically, everything stays where it is once you find it. And yeah, so that was my second set as a junior developer, and it was a noted improvement over Power Rangers Time Force. The third game I did was Alien Trilogy on PS1, which again was static, but I remembered having some trouble, so I had to talk with one of the moderators about solving an issue. And I remember right then and there, he was saying he felt I wasn't ready to be a full dev, and he wanted me to do at least one more set to kind of prove that I deserved to have full dev. And this is going to be a recurring thing. I've had multiple instances where I've just said to myself, you know what, I've had my fun. I don't think I want to dev anymore. I just want to play games. And this was one of those moments, because I felt like I would never be experienced enough to handle any of the big boy games or freaking be a full dev. And then what happened was he had a talk with the moderator team and, well, the administrative team. They decided I was actually worthy of graduation after all.
Congrats.
So I graduated, and I've been a full dev ever since. So the next game I did after that was Winback on the Nintendo 64. Very underrated game, by the way. It's even on Switch Online. And of course, I remember there were people that were reacting to it going, what the hell is Winback? And they just ignore it. So that is that is when my deving times got much longer, because I take my time making stuff unless I have a hard deadline, like for a launch. Like, if I don't have a hard deadline, I just take my time on stuff, because I work multiple jobs. There's other stuff I like to do, like SFM and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as nobody's bugging me about it, I don't worry about it too much.
Now, do you do achievements for original games, or do you ever do achievements for ROM hacks?
It's funny you mention that, because some people might be wondering if they do ROM hacks on the site. Yes, they do. They have to get approved by the administrative team first, but as long as it changes up the game in a significant way, like if it's original levels or if it's like a different kind of gameplay, then yeah, you can do ROM hacks on the site. Another thing you can do is called subsets. Basically, if there's a kind of challenge you want to do, if there's like a set of challenges you want to do that are, best way to describe it, not appropriate for a main set, you can split them off into their own subset for people who want to do them. Generally, what a subset is are bonus sets where basically you do ridiculously tough challenges that usually involve glitching. Like there's a subset for Mario 64 that's like all that has you doing like all the speed run tricks. And then sometimes subsets are like for very specific challenges that are like that are not tough, but they're like a very long grind. Like one you might want to know about is for KH1. There is a subset for KH1 Final Mix on PS2 that is grinding to level 100 on Destiny Islands.
Yeah, I've seen that before. It was a very long process.
Yep, and there's achievements for doing that, but not in the main set. It's in its own subset. So yeah, that's the best way to describe what subsets are. Then, so after Winback, that was around the time they were launching PSP. And the thing is, whenever there's a launch, the administrative team, like, they want as many freaking sets as they can get for the launch. So they go around bugging every dev. Hey, what PSP's launching? Is there any game you want to make for it? And for a while, I passed on PSP. At least I think I did, because I figured the memory was going to be hell. But then eventually I looked at Pac-Man World Rally, coincidentally the first PSP game I ever played. And from what I was seeing, the memory seemed static, and I turned out to be wrong on one thing. But that's another story.
Yeah.
But yeah, I took Pac-Man World Rally, though the thing is, I took it just before the launch happened. So technically I missed the launch, but I did release it within the launch window, which is like generally 4 months after. Then, shortly after that, they did Dreamcast. And Dreamcast, I actually did take a set, like when they started. I took Dynamite Cop, which is a arcade beat-em-up I loved playing as a kid, and it was also the reason I bought a Dreamcast. That one I made for the launch. Like, launch day, it was ready. And also, Dynamite Cop happens to be the hardest achievement set I've made. Pretty much nobody's mastered it. Now, speaking of that, there are 4 things. So they have hardcore mode and softcore mode. Basically, the difference is that on softcore, you can use save states and stuff. On hardcore, it's like you're playing on original hardware. There's no save states, like no rewinds, nothing like that. Now, originally, the way they did it is that whenever you played on hardcore, you would get double points. So say there was an achievement worth 25 points. If you played on softcore, you'd only get 25 points. But if you played on hardcore, you get another 25, which will make it 50. Well, there were elitists on the site who were not happy about the fact that there were softcore players on the leaderboards. So eventually it was decided to split them up. Basically, hardcore is the only thing that matters now.
Yeah.
And I remember being butthurt about it because at the time I had just hit 40,000 points. And basically overnight it got cut in half. And literally it was just this last week that I finally managed to get back to 40K. And the split happened 2 years ago.
So are you on both? Do you do both, or are you firmly on one side or the other side?
Well, the way I originally did it is that I would generally stay hardcore, but like for like Super Nintendo games or like stuff that was older, I would switch to softcore because I suck at those games. And not to mention, they generally don't have save features, so you'd have to beat them in one sitting. Especially since, if you're wondering, yes, there are ways to block cheats, and
So
it's required to do so.
like save states.
Save states are okay if you're playing softcore. On hardcore, you can't use them. So what I'm talking about is in-game cheats, like say the Konami code or like putting invincibility. Like those are tracked by addresses, so they can be blocked, and you're required to do so. And let's see. So yeah, how I would always do it is that I would play softcore just for like Super Nintendo games and stuff like that. And yeah, ever since the split, I've just kind of avoided playing softcore completely. So because of that, I haven't been playing a whole lot of like NES or Super Nintendo lately. Maybe I should play them and then just suck up the softcore, but whatever. So, after Dreamcast, after Dynamite Cop launched, that was another period where I felt like, okay, I had my fun. I don't know if I want to make anything else. And then, right the hell out of nowhere, PS2 was in the works. I did not think PS2 was possible because up to this point, I was exclusively using RetroArch. And RetroArch, it's like the big hub for like emulators, like they have all the emulator cores. PS2 doesn't really have a way to work on RetroArch. And later in this story, you'll find out, even though Dolphin, the GameCube and Wii emulator, that works in RetroArch, but the big reason why it took so long for Dolphin to get support is because the Dolphin devs hate RetroArch. And they stopped updating the core years ago, and they didn't want to work with achievements at all because they were worried it was going to be tied to RetroArch. Well, for PS2, the solution was just get the achievements working in the standalone emulator. And quite frankly, that's what they did for a couple of other systems like PSP, PS1. Pretty sure there was others. So when PS2 was announced, again, I thought games were going to be too complicated for me, so I didn't really think about doing any. And then I remembered Time Crisis 2. Because that seemed like a simple enough game. It was one I'm very familiar with.
Is that one of the games you did for your old review series?
Yeah. And yeah, what happened was I asked if there was going to be light gun support, and light gun support did come, like for like the point and click controls, but not at launch. But still, I pressed forward with Time Crisis 2. I finished it within 2 months. There was a month left before launch, and they were asking me, any other games you want to do? So I did Time Crisis 3. Time Crisis 3 is probably my proudest achievement on the site. I made the entire set in only 5 days. And the reason I was able to accomplish that is because Time Crisis 3 happened to share so much of the memory layout from Time Crisis 2. Like, I had to find it all again, but the memory otherwise behaved just like it did in Time Crisis 2. So because of that, I was able to recycle so much of my achievement setups. And it worked.
So
Then,
is there a game that you haven't done yet that you want to do? Haven't been.
Well, I'm going to get to the games I'm working on right now.
Right.
When I get to the end of this.
Right. Okay.
So now I finished Time Crisis 3 fast enough to where they're like, is there another is there another game you want to do? And I just picked the final Time Crisis game on PS2, Crisis Zone. Though that one I didn't finish until a few months after launch. Then the next set I released after that was Spider-Man on the Dreamcast. And the reason I did Spider-Man on Dreamcast is normally I'm not going to talk about the users on the site because if I'm being frank, I'm not that close with the community. Like, it's just one of those communities where, yeah, I went looking for friends there and haven't really found any. Can just kind of leave it at that.
Okay.
Like, there's people I talk to on there, but nobody I'd say I'm super close with. Like, I guess I can say, at least there are people I talk to there now. I barely spoke to people like a year or two ago. So, anyway, I'm going to get into the story of probably one of the most infamous users on the site. The user's name was Alfex. Now, Alfex's deal is that they loved multi-language support. So, here's the thing. When it comes to what ISO version they use for like developing the achievements, generally they like to do the European versions just because multi-language support is built in. Because keep in mind, the website is not just English speakers. There's a pretty big Brazilian community. There's a pretty big Russian community. Like, there's people who use the site come from like all over the world. So, yeah. Generally, for portable systems, they will use the European versions because generally multi-language is built in. But for home platforms like PS1, PS2, N64, Dreamcast, and the likes, they like to use the American versions just because of the 60 hertz. Because European games of the time were generally 50 hertz. Which meant they ran slower, not as good. I mean, like with PS2 and Dreamcast and GameCube, some European games would have 60 hertz built in as an option, but not every game had it. So anyways, getting back to Alfex. Alfex's deal is that they liked to support every single ROM version of the game. The American one, the European one, and all the specific different language ones, like Italian, Russian, and the likes. And while you can do that, it is really difficult. Because every version of the game, even on games with static memory, all the addresses are in different spots, depending on the version. And to make a long story short, Alfex's way of doing multi-language support barely worked. Pretty much all of Alfex's achievements were busted when they were launched. And for a while, like, the administrators let them get away with it because they were always quick to fix things. But eventually, they were crossing boundaries. They were going into other people's achievement sets to link ISO versions without their permission, which would cause things to get busted.
And that's against the rules.
Yep. And then we have what's known as the Dino Crisis incident. So what happened was, and the Dino Crisis incident is going to have a very curious end. So what happened was, the problem with Alphex is that Alphex, like, so the thing is, if you're wondering, can you make achievements for multiple versions of the same game? So, like, say for instance, there's a game that's on PS1 and Nintendo 64. You can make different achievement lists for both versions. So what Alphex was doing is, let's take Miss Pac-Man Maze Madness, for example. There was a Nintendo 64 set of Miss Pac-Man Maze Madness. Well, Alphex made a set for the PS1 version, I believe. And then they took that PS1 set and ported it note for note to Dreamcast. No changes, no changes, all the badges are the same, everything. And then Alphex basically started plagiarizing other people's sets. So Toy Story 2 on PS1 had a pretty good set. Alphex took that set, word for word, badge for badge, note for note, and put it on Dreamcast. Except it was busted because of the multi-language thing. Well, eventually, while the administrators came to the decision that plagiarism of sets was no good. Like, basically, what you have to do when you're making achievements for a different version of a game, when other versions of that game already have achievements, generally the rule is you got to do at least something different. Like, you got to have the names and the badges. Like, even if you reuse like a lot of challenges and achievements and stuff, you got to at least make the names and badges different. Give it your own flair.
Like the fair use rules on YouTube. As long as you change up something, you can comment.
As long as you change something significantly, you should be good. And that's how I do it. Like, I've made a couple of sets for like ports of games that already had them. So yeah, they introduced.
Sorry, did you ever steal anything from you?
No. So what happened was they officially put in these anti-plagiarism rules. So Alphex took the Dreamcast version of Dino Crisis, which is a basically Resident Evil with dinosaurs. And the PS1 set had achievements. The PS1 version had achievements. So, yeah, in typical fashion, Alphex took all the PS1 achievements note for note. And this time, they did something a little different. They replaced all the achievement badges with a blank picture that just read achievement. The word achievement. And he changed all the names of the achievements to Achievement 1, Achievement 2, Achievement 3, Achievement 4, so on and so forth. And the descriptions were also erased, and in the place of the descriptions were links to their PS1 counterparts.
Wow.
So that was the straw that broke the camel's back, and Alphex was banned. Eventually, like just recently, they started undoing all the damage Alphex did. They went into all the sets they made and started unlinking everything except the US versions normally. And eventually, one person, one brave soul, finally took the reins of Dino Crisis Dreamcast. And they left all the unofficial achievements that were demoted of Alphex's work so that they can continue to be seen to be believed. That unbelievable stunt. But yeah, that brave soul went into Dino Crisis, salvaged all of Alphex's work, made it actually work, and more importantly, added their own flair to it, added their own challenges, their own stuff, changed things around they didn't like from the PS1 set. Basically everything you're supposed to do. Yeah. A brave soul saved Dino Crisis from unofficial hell. And that soul is me. Yep, I fixed Dino Crisis Dreamcast.
Was it hard or easy?
Well, I was able to use Alphex's work as like a starting point, but especially when it came to puzzles, they were just a mess. So I kind of had to figure stuff out myself, but Dino Crisis had static memory, so it was okay.
So not a pointer.
No pointers. And yeah. And that was the reason I took Spider-Man Dreamcast. Well before that, because I sort of wanted to prove that you could make a set that was very similar to the other versions, but still make it your own thing. Because on the Dreamcast set, I reused a lot of stuff from the PS1 and N64 set, but I still added my own stuff. Everything got their own badges and names. That said, Spider-Man Dreamcast's launch nearly made me quit deving. Because Spider-Man Dreamcast is Spider-Man PS1 and 64 Dreamcast, it is very pointer heavy. And I thought it would be fine because the PS1 set had its achievements posted. I thought if I just copied all the setups that I needed from there, the pointer setups, I'd be fine. I was wrong. And what really sucked is that just a day after launching Spider-Man Dreamcast, I had to go on vacation to Florida. And let's just say they do have a system in place for reporting achievements that are busted. It's a ticket system. Spider-Man Dreamcast is the most tickets I've ever gotten on anything.
And you were gone, so you couldn't do anything about them.
Nope. Let's just say that was around the point I was getting very depressed about stuff, like especially with like my real life situation at the time. And yeah, Spider-Man Dreamcast did me no favors back then. And the big problem with ticket reporters is some of them are polite about it. Some of them even try to help you with it. Others are rude and condescending.
And let me guess, the majority of them for your thing was on the rude side?
I'd say it's more half and half.
All right.
Maybe it's better to say that most ticket reporters are indifferent. But yeah, eventually I fixed up Spider-Man, but that did a number on me. So if I go to my achievement list for stuff I've done,
you want to feel free to screen share if you want to.
Yeah, I actually could screen share the stuff I've done. Actually, what I could show you is... So, would you like to know an example of... Well, if I could freaking pull this up. Freaking... Yeah, I need to freaking... Yeah, I want to zoom in on this. I just want to show you an example of what achievements look like when you put them together.
Okay.
Let me just... I'm just downloading some screenshots. Okay, here we are. So...
Click the screen share button.
Yeah. If I can frickin'... Here it is.
All right.
All right, so this is an achievement from Time Crisis 2. You see how simple it is?
Yep.
So basically what it's tracking is that you're on stage 1, area 1, and then those two on the bottom are basically like a screen flag. Then this is Resident Evil 2 Dreamcast. So a little bit more involved. Those resets at the bottom are they're the cheat protection. And basically what this is looking for is that you're on the right map and that you kill the right enemy you're supposed to. And now, Spider-Man. Can you even tell what the hell's going on here?
No, but I can't tell what lot that's going on.
So, because of Spider-Man's usage of pointers, basically what this is doing is tracking that you're completing a couple of levels, and it's tracking enemy data, enemy animation data, to make sure you're not killing any enemies. And that is the simplest way I can describe this mess. And now I'm going to screen share every achievement set I've made.
All right. Real fast. If you were to make achievements for the PS2 Kingdom Hearts games, are those pointers or not pointers?
Too late, because other people already made those.
All right.
And I don't think I would have wanted to handle them. So, Resident Evil 2 Dreamcast kind of reinvigorated my deving passion, because it was a surprising amount of fun to work through Resident Evil 2. Like, if you're wondering why it says 89 of 178, that's because I didn't do it alone. I did it with another user. And they did one half of the game, I did the other half. And yeah, and then eventually...
you did what the one story and they did the other story?
Pretty much. And I did the same thing again for Resident Evil 4 on GameCube. And Resident Evil 2 on GameCube I did on my own. Then another collab I did was Die Hard Trilogy, which the gimmick with that is I got me and 2 other devs to handle each part of the game, because there's basically 3 different games in there. Then one more PS2 game I worked on was Vampire Knight, basically the closest thing the PS2 got to House of the Dead. So, also, I worked on Buzz Lightyear Star Command for Dreamcast, which is oddly a case of me doing my own take on an Alphex set. And not to brag, but I did it better than Alphex. So anyways, probably the most recent thing I can discuss is the launch of GameCube. We did not think GameCube was going to be possible anytime soon, because the Dolphin devs were really hesitant to allow it. The only reason it happened is because there was a really dedicated user who went into Dolphin themselves, and they figured out how to get it to work on their own. I don't know much of what went on. All I know is that they were kind of butting heads with the Dolphin devs, because I guess they were worried that the achievement support would cause, like, compromises in Dolphin itself. Now, I know the original plan was to launch GameCube and Wii by itself. No, together. GameCube and Wii together, because Dolphin can handle them both. But then they settled on doing GameCube only, because I guess there was trouble hashing Wii games, like getting them to register on the site. But Wii is supposed to come like in the next year or two. So the game I made for the GameCube launch was Resident Evil 2. And it kind of brought a tear to my eye to see some people saying they think it might be the best Resident Evil 2 set on the site. Then I also helped another user make Resident Evil 4 on the GameCube. And now I can screen share one more time.
Right.
And I can briefly show you what I'm doing right now.
Okay. 1 second.
So you see these primary claims. These are the claims I have right now. The biggest claim I have is of Resident Evil 1 Remake. See, when you earn enough points, you get set requests on the site. And 170 people have requested RE1 Remake. It's in the top 20 most requested as of now. So, no pressure. Then I'm also doing Resident Evil Code Veronica on the GameCube, and then 2 rail shooters I like, Confidential Mission and Virtua Cop Elite. But RE1 Remake's my priority right now. And, I mean, that's about all I can say, really.
So, how do you decide how do you decide what you decide would be an achievement?
How do I decide what to do as an achievement?
Yeah.
Basically, anything that I find out, as long as it's possible to do. I'm not very creative with achievement ideas, but I try.
And they're all original. At least you try to have them all original.
If I'm doing a port of a game, odds are I might take some stuff from the other ports, but usually I try to add my own flair. Generally, if I think an achievement idea is stupid hard, I might nerf it a little bit. But yeah. Because that's the thing with the site. There can be some stupid hard achievements.
Like for Resident Evil, don't kill any zombies at all.
Well, I haven't done an achievement like that. But one achievement I did for Resident Evil 2 involves playing the game without auto-aim. You can't save. You can't open an item box. You can't use first aid sprays. And you can't pick up more than 5 herbs. So, yeah.
Have you been able to do that achievement?
No. That's the thing with me in achievements. Very, very rarely am I able to master them.
Yeah.
Mastery is when you get all the achievements on hardcore. If you get them all on softcore, it's considered completed. And very recently, they add the beat a game option. Basically, you have to label the achievements that the achievements you get for just playing the game, like progressing your way through it, you have to mark those achievements as progression. And then when you beat the game, whatever achievement you get for beating the game has to be marked as a win condition. Once you unlock them all, you get the game marked as beaten on your profile. And to be frank, the beat a game feature has made me more motivated to actually finish games. So, any other questions?
No. Anybody in chat have any questions?
Because I just about covered it. Like, I've had my ups and downs on the site. Like, again, the thing with tickets is that sometimes they're mistaken reports. And especially when you get, like, the rude variety of people, of ticket reporters.
So what's one of the nicer tickets you've had?
I straight up got somebody who volunteered to help test RE1 Remake before I release it. Which is a good thing, because I want to launch that stable. Oh, to respond to Eddie in chat, I believe the first achievement ever created on the site was getting 50 rings in Sonic 1. I do not plan to do RPGs, Alma. At one point, I claimed Front Mission 3, one of my favorite games on the PS1, but I had to drop it because that was at the height of my downer mood caused by Spider-Man. And on top of that, Front Mission 3 is such a massive commitment. Basically, that's a game that multiple people have to work on. I don't know if one person could do it alone.
If it won't make you too upset, what was one of the worst, the rudest achievement? I mean, the rudest comments you ever got?
Basically, I'm not naming names, but there was somebody who would basically go on every single achievement and in a stuck-up way would report some kind of problem with it in the public comments. Like, it seemed like it was their job to make me look like an incompetent fool.
Like real problems, or just like problems they thought that they just
some of it was real problems, but some of it was stuff they thought was a problem. And see, my problem with that is the stuck-up tone of voice. Like, the choice of words. Like, they act like super elitist about it. The thing is, it's a dumb site about these stupid little challenges.
Yeah. It's like,
at the end of the day, even the site owner himself is like, you're just here to have fun.
Yeah, it's like if you go to a fan site about say a shipping thing of an anime couple, and you hate that couple, but you go to that site anyway just to say this couple is stupid, or this person is stupid, this character is stupid. I'm like, if you hate this character, hate this couple, why are you on a site or forum about them? That's just, I know it's nothing to do with it. It's, just random. Remind me of that. But almost a new question.
So, again, pretty much everything in Spider-Man, I guess you could say.
Question: you're working on the RE1 remix, right? Is that
RE1 remake? Yeah.
Is that a pointer, or that not a pointer?
The Resident Evil games are generally not pointers.
Right.
The only one that I think was pointers was, well, Resident Evil 4 uses pointers for like animations and stuff, but most of the game is static. But my understanding is the guy who did Resident Evil 0, that game was very pointer heavy.
Is there any games that you want to work on that are pointers that you're like not looking forward to working on?
If it really has to come down to it, I may look into Shrek Extra Large, because that game is incredibly pointer heavy, so I don't think I can do it. But I do really want Shrek Extra Large to be supported.
Oh, I am that from our little holiday adventure on your channel.
Yep.
So, speaking of Shrek, has anybody done Shrek on Xbox yet?
Xbox is not supported as of now.
So
because the Xbox emulator, it's there kind of, but lots of games still don't work properly.
If anybody else has any questions, anything on your
last minute questions, because I do kind of have to get going shortly.
Anything coming up in your channel that you're gonna be doing on your YouTube channel you want to talk about?
Assuming it keeps getting updates, I have to keep playing that freaking Suicide Squad game with Dark Lord Shadow and our friend Miles. No, Brandon, Shrek Extra Large does not have achievements as of now.
That a good thing or a bad thing?
It's actually kind of a bad thing, because while that's not a good game, I still really want to play it.
Yeah.
Well, Alma, to answer your question, I don't, again, after I finish the 4 that I have claimed, I mean, inevitably I might have to take something for the Wii launch, but I'm kind of getting to the period where I'm thinking of, well, I have my fun, now I just want to play games yet again. We'll see.
Yeah. Me, you, and Brandon have a history of Shrek. I can't wait to see what is done with it when you do it, if it's ever done.
I don't know if I probably am not going to do it. I'm going to wait for another brave soul to do it. Because thankfully there are other people that see the meme value in
it. For me, I don't have much plans for August. I am interviewing the daughter of Boris Karloff on the 21st of August, and then I'm going on vacation for a weekend at the end of August. I'm going on vacation at the end of September, and in August, beginning of September. So I will not be doing anything that week. But hopefully September will have new stuff planned. And all right, I'll let you go. And remember, never stop learning, enjoy the randomness, and enjoy the achievements.
Thanks for listening. I'm very sorry for my sour mood at the start, but thankfully it worked out.
We'll see y'all next time. Bye.